The September sun cast a gentle glow over Milan's Golden Quadrilateral, the city's premier luxury shopping district. Via Monte Napoleon glistened with promise, its cobblestone pathways lined with the most prestigious fashion houses in the world. It was early morning, just after 10, and the district was beginning to bustle with the day's first wave of affluent shoppers and fashion enthusiasts. Two figures strolled casually along the street, seemingly untouched by the burgeoning excitement around them. They moved with purpose but without hurry, their faces partially obscured by casual caps pulled low over their brows. The taller of the two, a man in his late 40s with a hint of scruff and wearing faded jeans, a simple gray hoodie, and worn sneakers, gestured animatedly as he spoke. His companion, a blonde woman in her early 30s dressed in loose-fitting black yoga pants, an oversized white t-shirt, and a denim jacket, nodded appreciatively at whatever story he was sharing. They were Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie, though to any casual observer, they might have been any pair of friends enjoying a morning in one of the world's most beautiful cities. "I'm telling you, Margot," Leo said, chuckling as they walked, "the espresso here will ruin you for coffee everywhere else. It's like they've distilled perfection into those tiny cups." Margot adjusted her plain black cap and smiled. "That's what you said about the pasta last night. And the wine before that. I'm starting to think you just love everything about Italy." "Guilty as charged," Leo admitted with a shrug. "But can you blame me? 3 days in Milan for this climate summit, and all I can think about is sneaking away for more of those little almond pastries. The ones from that bakery near the hotel?" Margot's eyes lit up. "They were divine. What are they called again?" "Paste di mandorla," Leo pronounced with an exaggerated Italian accent that made Margot laugh. "And yes, those exact ones. I've been craving them since yesterday." They paused in front of a gleaming storefront, its windows displaying an artful arrangement of handbags that cost more than most people's monthly salary. The boutique was Celestia Milano, one of Italy's most exclusive luxury brands, renowned for its handcrafted leather goods and impeccable service. "Should we?" Margot asked, gesturing toward the entrance. "I promised my sister I'd bring her back something special. Her birthday's next month." Leo checked his watch, an understated but astronomically expensive timepiece that was the only hint of his actual wealth. "We've got time before the press junket. Let's take a look." The interior of Celestia Milano was a study in opulence. Gleaming marble floors reflected soft lighting from crystal chandeliers, and glass display cases housed treasures of Italian craftsmanship. A subtle floral scent permeated the air, and classical music played at just the right volume to envelope but not overwhelm. Despite the early hour, several patrons already browsed the merchandise, all of them dressed impeccably. The store staff, clad in identical black suits with the boutique's signature gold pins on their lapels, attended to these customers with practiced deference. Leo held the door for Margot as they entered, and they both removed their sunglasses, blinking as their eyes adjusted to the change in lighting. They kept their caps on, a small but significant detail that would soon prove consequential. A young sales associate near the entrance glanced up at them briefly before returning her attention to a middle-aged couple examining a collection of wallets. The two friends moved deeper into the store, drawn to a display of colorful scarves that might be perfect for Margot's sister. "What do you think she'd like?" Margot asked, running her fingers lightly over a silk scarf in shades of blue and green. "The teal one is gorgeous." Leo studied the display thoughtfully. "The burgundy might go well with her coloring, based on the photos you've shown me. But you're her sister, you'd know best." As they discussed the merits of different options, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a dark suit approached them. Unlike the sales associates, he wore an earpiece and had a barely concealed bulge under his jacket that suggested a security device of some kind. His name tag identified him as Alberto, head of security. Alberto cleared his throat loudly, standing uncomfortably close to Margot. When she turned to acknowledge him, his face was set in a stern expression, eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Can I help you?" he asked in heavily accented English, his tone making it clear that helping was not his primary intention. Margot smiled politely. "We're just browsing, thank you. These scarves are beautiful." Alberto did not return the smile. Instead, he looked pointedly at Margot's casual attire, then at Leo's well-worn hoodie. His gaze lingered disapprovingly on their caps. "This is a high-end establishment," he said, voice rising slightly. "We cater to a certain clientele." The implication hung in the air, causing a nearby customer to look over curiously. Margot's smile faltered, but she maintained her composure. "We understand," she said calmly. "We're just looking for a gift." Alberto took a step closer, entering Margot's personal space in a way that made her instinctively back up. "Perhaps you would be more comfortable in one of the stores near the Duomo? More suitable for tourists on a budget." Leo, who had been examining a display case nearby, turned at the change in conversation tone. He saw Margot's discomfort and the security guard's aggressive stance, and immediately moved to her side. "Is there a problem?" Leo asked, his voice level but with an unmistakable edge. Alberto barely glanced at him, keeping his focus on Margot. "I am simply suggesting that your companion might find other establishments more appropriate. We have standards here." "Standards?" Leo repeated, a dangerous quietness in his voice. "For appearance, yes," Alberto continued, seemingly oblivious to the subtle shift in atmosphere. "The caps, the clothing, this is not a casual shop. We have clients who expect a certain environment." By now, two sales associates had noticed the interaction and were watching with visible discomfort, exchanging worried glances. One of them, an older woman with a manager's pin on her lapel, approached quickly. "Alberto," she said in Italian, "is everything all right?" "I am handling it, Sophia," he replied without looking at her, still focused on Margot. "These people need to leave." Margot's cheeks had flushed with embarrassment, but her expression remained dignified. "We haven't done anything wrong. We're potential customers, just like anyone else here." "Potential?" Alberto scoffed, switching back to English. "Look at yourselves. The sneakers, the sweatpants. This is Celestia Milano, not some bargain outlet." Leo stepped slightly forward, placing himself partially between Margot and Alberto. His posture remained relaxed, but there was a protective quality to his stance that was unmistakable. "I think you're making a mistake," Leo said quietly. Alberto finally turned his full attention to Leo, looking him up and down with undisguised disdain. "The mistake was letting you through the door. Now, I ask you politely to leave before I must become insistent." Leo removed his cap, running a hand through his recognizable hair. "My name is Leonardo DiCaprio. This is my colleague, Margot Robbie. We're in Milan for the European Climate Action Summit, and we came in here to buy a gift." The revelation landed like a thunderclap in the quiet store. Sophia's eyes widened in shock, and several nearby customers gasped audibly. Alberto's confident expression faltered, but only momentarily. "Anyone can claim to be a celebrity," he said, but with noticeably less conviction. "If you are who you say, why dress like this?" He gestured dismissively at their casual attire. Margot also removed her cap, her blonde hair falling around her shoulders. "Because sometimes we just want to be normal people enjoying a normal day," she said. "Being appropriately dressed shouldn't determine how someone is treated in a store." By now, another sales associate, a young man named Marco according to his name tag, had approached, his face a picture of mortification as recognition dawned. "Signor DiCaprio," he said breathlessly, "Signorina Robbie. I am so sorry for this misunderstanding. Please, allow me to assist you with whatever you were looking for." Alberto had gone pale, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. Sophia, the manager, stepped forward with a professional smile that couldn't hide her anxiety. "Please accept our deepest apologies," she said. Alberto is new to our security team and clearly overstepped. I assure you this does not reflect our values at Celestia Milano. But the damage was done. Several other customers were openly staring now, some discreetly taking photos with their phones. What had begun as a simple shopping trip had turned into a spectacle. Leo glanced at Margot, a silent communication passing between them. She gave a slight nod. I think we'll continue our shopping elsewhere today, Leo said, his voice deliberately loud enough for nearby customers to hear. But I'd like to speak with the store director before we go. Of course, Sophia said hurriedly. Please, come to our private viewing room. I'll call Signor Bianchi immediately. As they were ushered toward the back of the store, Leo placed a reassuring hand on Margot's shoulder. You okay? He asked quietly. Fine, she replied with a wry smile. Not the first time someone's judged the book by its cover. Probably won't be the last. Still doesn't make it right, Leo muttered. The private viewing room was a stark contrast to the sales floor, even more luxurious, with plush seating and a small bar in the corner offering champagne and espresso. Sophia nervously offered them refreshments, which they politely declined. Within minutes, a distinguished-looking man in his 60s arrived, slightly out of breath. Signor DiCaprio, Signorina Robbie, he said, extending his hand. I am Giovanni Bianchi, director of Celestia Milano. I have just been informed of this terrible incident, and I cannot express my shame deeply enough. Leo shook his hand firmly. Mr. Bianchi, I understand mistakes happen. But what occurred out there reflects a deeper problem than just mistaken identity. Bianchi nodded gravely. You are absolutely right, and I take full responsibility. That kind of behavior has no place in our establishment, or anywhere, for that matter. It's not just about us, Margot added. We can walk away from this and go somewhere else. But what about people who get treated that way and don't have the celebrity card to play? It's dehumanizing. I agree completely, Signorina Robbie, Bianchi said. Please know that I will address this immediately. Alberto will be terminated, effective immediately, and we will institute additional training for all staff. Leo frowned slightly. I'm not sure firing Alberto is the solution. Education might be more valuable than punishment. I appreciate your compassion, Signor DiCaprio, Bianchi replied, but his behavior violated our most basic principles of respect and service. The two sales associates who stood by will also face disciplinary action. That seems excessive, Leo argued. They were clearly uncomfortable with the situation but probably didn't know how to intervene with their superior. As the conversation continued, a small crowd had gathered outside the boutique. Word had spread quickly, as it always did when celebrities were involved, and curious onlookers were trying to catch a glimpse through the windows. Some had phones raised, ready to capture any drama that might unfold. Inside the private room, Leo leaned forward, his expression serious. Mr. Bianchi, I'd like to make a proposal. The news broke later that afternoon, just as Leo and Margot were finishing their press obligations at the climate summit. Their phones began buzzing incessantly with notifications, and their publicists called in rapid succession. It's everywhere, Leo's longtime publicist informed him. Social media, entertainment news sites, even some mainstream outlets are picking it up. DiCaprio and Robbie ejected from luxury boutique is trending. Leo sighed, rubbing his temples. Any mention of what happened afterward? Not yet, his publicist replied. Want me to issue a statement? Leo glanced at Margot, who was having a similar conversation with her own team. Let's coordinate with Margot's people. I want us to be on the same page. By evening, the incident had mushroomed into a full-blown viral story. Grainy cell phone footage from outside the store showed Leo and Margot entering, then a glimpse of the confrontation through the windows, though the audio was inaudible. Speculation ran rampant, with some reports claiming they had been forcibly removed from the premises. The two actors retreated to a quiet restaurant in a less fashionable part of Milan, seeking refuge from the growing media circus. They sat in a corner booth, menus untouched before them. "I'm sorry about all this," Leo said. "A simple shopping trip shouldn't have turned into international news." Margot shook her head. "Don't apologize. If anything, I dragged you into it by wanting to look at that scarf. No one's at fault except Alberto and perhaps the culture that encouraged his behavior," Leo insisted. "I just hope our little impromptu project with Bianchi doesn't get lost in all the drama." The waiter approached their table, an elderly man who either didn't recognize them or was professional enough not to show it. They ordered simple pasta dishes and a bottle of house wine, grateful for the normalcy of the interaction. "Do you think it will work?" Margot asked once the waiter had departed. Bianchi seemed sincere, but corporate promises often evaporate once the PR crisis passes. Leo swirled the water in his glass thoughtfully. "I think having concrete deliverables helps. It's not just sensitivity training, it's a complete policy overhaul with external accountability. And the scholarship program for underprivileged youth interested in fashion, that was your brilliant addition." "I hope Alberto takes the opportunity," Margot said. "Retraining rather than firing gives him a chance to actually learn from this." "Some will say we're naive," Leo admitted. "That we should have publicly shamed the store, called for boycotts. And others will say we're exercising celebrity privilege to force our values on a business," Margot countered. "We can't win either way, so we might as well do what feels right." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their wine, followed shortly by steaming plates of pasta. They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, the simple but exquisitely prepared food a reminder of why Leo loved Italy so much. "You know," Margot said eventually, twirling linguine around her fork, "I've been thinking about what Alberto said, about how we were dressed. There's something almost liberating about being misjudged sometimes." Leo raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "When people see past the surface, the fame, the glamour, all that, and still value you, it means more. Like this place," she gestured around the modest restaurant. "They don't care who we are. The pasta is amazing, the service is genuine, and there are no expectations beyond being decent customers." "Philosophical insights over pasta," Leo smiled. "This is why I enjoy working with you, Robbie." Their meal continued pleasantly, the weight of the day's events gradually lifting. They discussed the climate summit, potential future projects, and shared stories from sets they'd worked on. It was only when they were finishing their dessert that Leo's phone buzzed with an urgent message. "Celestia Milano just issued a press release," he told Margot after reading it. "Want to hear?" "Do I have a choice?" she asked with a wry smile. Leo cleared his throat and read aloud. "Following an unfortunate incident this morning involving our valued guests Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie, Celestia Milano wishes to announce several initiatives that reflect our renewed commitment to creating an inclusive environment for all clients. Effective immediately, we are implementing comprehensive sensitivity and inclusivity training for all staff members across our global locations. Additionally, we are establishing the Celestia Future Scholarship, which will provide educational opportunities in fashion design and business for underprivileged youth. Rather than terminating the employees involved, we have, at the suggestion of Mr. DiCaprio and Ms. Robbie, chosen a path of education and growth. The individuals will undergo specialized training and community service with organizations serving diverse populations. We are deeply grateful to Mr. DiCaprio and Ms. Robbie for their graciousness and wisdom in helping us transform an unfortunate mistake into an opportunity for positive change. They exemplify the character and compassion we should all aspire to." Leo looked up from his phone. "It goes on with more corporate speak, but that's the gist." Margot leaned back in her chair, a small smile playing at her lips. "Well, that was fast. Think they mean it?" "I think Bianchi was genuinely mortified," Leo replied. "And having our names attached creates accountability they can't easily walk away from." Plus, we're scheduled to visit that training session in 2 months when we're back for the film festival. Speaking of which, Margot checked her watch, we should probably get some rest. Early call time tomorrow. They paid their bill, leaving a generous tip, and stepped out into the mild Milan evening. A few passers-by did double takes as they recognized the celebrities, but most simply continued on their way, caught up in their own lives. Leo's driver was waiting discreetly down the block. As they walked toward the car, Leo said, "You know, there's a silver lining to all this." "What's that?" Margot asked. "You still need to get your sister a birthday present." Margot laughed. "Are you suggesting another shopping adventure tomorrow?" "I know a place," Leo said with a conspiratorial smile. "Small boutique run by a local artisan family for generations. No security guards, just incredible craftsmanship and people who love what they do." "Sounds perfect," Margot agreed as they reached the car. "And maybe we should dress up a bit, just to confuse everyone." "Deal," Leo said as he opened the car door for her. "But I'm still wearing comfortable shoes." The following morning dawned clear and bright over Milan. Leo and Margot met in the hotel lobby, both transformed from their casual attire of the previous day. Leo wore a tailored charcoal suit with no tie, while Margot had chosen an elegant but understated cream-colored dress. They looked every inch the Hollywood stars the world knew them to be. "Comfortable shoes as promised," Leo pointed out, showing off his designer loafers. Margot twirled playfully. "How's this for confusing the masses? Do I look like I belong in a luxury boutique now?" "You looked like you belonged yesterday too," Leo said firmly. That was the whole point. Their driver took them to a quieter part of the city, away from the main shopping districts. The boutique Leo had mentioned was located on a charming side street lined with flowering plants and small cafes. Its modest storefront featured a simple sign, "Tossetti Artigianali, Dal 1896. Inside, the shop was warm and inviting, with the rich scent of leather and wood polish in the air. Display cases contained exquisite handmade accessories, each piece clearly crafted with exceptional skill and attention to detail. An elderly man emerged from the back room, his face lighting up when he saw Leo. "Leonardo," he exclaimed, embracing Leo warmly. "It has been too long." "Signor Tossetti," Leo returned the embrace. "I'd like you to meet my friend and colleague, Margot Robbie." The old craftsman bowed slightly. "An honor, Signorina. Any friend of Leonardo's is welcome here." As Signor Tossetti showed them around his workshop, explaining the history and techniques behind his creations, Margot found exactly what she was looking for, a beautifully crafted leather journal with her sister's initials discreetly embossed in the corner. "It's perfect," she said, running her fingers over the soft leather. "She's a writer, this will mean so much to her." Their shopping completed, they were about to leave when Signor Tossetti's granddaughter rushed in from the back room, eyes wide with excitement. "No," she exclaimed in Italian. "Have you seen the news? Everyone is talking about what happened at Celestia Milano yesterday." She noticed Leo and Margot then, and her hand flew to her mouth in surprise. Leo smiled reassuringly at her. "It's all right," he said. "What are they saying?" The young woman, Maria, showed them her phone. The story had evolved overnight, with many media outlets now reporting on the positive outcome rather than just the confrontation. Photos of Leo and Margot from the climate summit were juxtaposed with screenshots of Celestia Milano's press release. One headline read, "Hollywood stars turn fashion faux pas into force for good." "They're calling you agents of change," Maria translated from an Italian fashion blog. "Many people are praising your decision not to publicly shame the store but to work with them instead." Not all the coverage was positive, of course. Some commentators suggested it was just a publicity stunt, while others criticized the actors for not taking a harder stance against discrimination. "You can't please everyone," Margot shrugged as they left the boutique with her purchase carefully wrapped in brown paper and string, "No flashy branded shopping bags here." "No," Leo agreed, but we can try to make decisions we can live with. They spent the rest of the morning at various climate summit events, giving interviews and participating in panel discussions about environmental conservation, the actual reason they were in Milan in the first place. By mid-afternoon, they were scheduled to part ways, with Margot heading to London for a screen test and Leo remaining in Italy for additional meetings. As they said their goodbyes at the hotel, Margot handed Leo a small package. "What's this?" he asked, surprised. "Open it," she encouraged. Inside was a simple leather bracelet from Tosetti's shop, with a small silver charm in the shape of a lion. "For Leonardo," she explained with a smile. "To remember our Milan adventure. And to remind you that sometimes being misjudged can lead to unexpected opportunities." Leo examined the bracelet appreciatively before slipping it onto his wrist. "I don't think I'll need a reminder of that particular lesson anytime soon, but I appreciate the sentiment." "One more thing," Margot said, her expression growing serious. "I got a call from my agent. Apparently, Alberto, the security guard, has been trying to reach us to apologize personally." Leo considered this. "What do you think?" "I think everyone deserves a second chance," Margot replied. "Maybe we could arrange a brief meeting before I leave for the airport?" An hour later, they sat in a quiet corner of the hotel's rooftop garden. Alberto arrived punctually, dressed in civilian clothes rather than his security uniform. He looked nervous, his usual confidence completely absent. "Signor DiCaprio, Signorina Robbie," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I cannot express how deeply ashamed I am of my behavior yesterday." Leo gestured for him to sit down, which Alberto did reluctantly, perching on the edge of the chair as if ready to flee at any moment. "I have spent all night thinking about what I did," Alberto continued. "Not just to you, though that was terrible enough, but about how many others I might have treated poorly because of how they looked or dressed." Margot's expression softened. "What made you want to work in security for a luxury brand in the first place?" Alberto looked surprised by the question. I come from a poor background. Growing up, places like Celestia Milano represented something I could never have, never be part of. When I got the job, it felt like I had finally arrived somewhere important. "And you wanted to protect that exclusivity," Leo suggested. Alberto nodded, his gaze dropping to his hands. "I thought I was doing my job, maintaining standards. But now I see I was just perpetuating the same barriers that kept my family out of such places for generations." "That's a powerful realization," Margot said gently. "Signor Bianchi told me about the training program," Alberto said. "That instead of firing me, you suggested education. I don't deserve such kindness." "It's not about deserving," Leo replied. "It's about what creates the most positive change in the world. Would firing you have taught you anything except resentment?" Alberto looked up, meeting Leo's gaze directly for the first time. "I promise you, I will take this opportunity seriously. I will learn, and I will be better." "That's all anyone can ask," Margot said, standing to indicate the meeting was concluding. "We all make mistakes, Alberto. The measure of a person is what they do afterward." As they said their goodbyes, Alberto hesitated before asking, "May I ask one question? Why were you dressed so casually? You must have known how people might react." Leo exchanged a glance with Margot, then answered honestly. "Because sometimes it's exhausting to be on all the time. Because we wanted to just be people, not celebrities, for a few hours." Alberto nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I see. Thank you for your time, and for your forgiveness." After he had gone, Leo and Margot stood together on the rooftop, looking out over the beautiful city of Milan. "Think he meant it?" Margot asked. "I do," Leo replied. "Sometimes being confronted with your own prejudices can be transformative." Margot checked her watch reluctantly. "I should go if I'm going to make my flight." "Safe travels," Leo said, giving her a friendly hug. "See you at the premiere next month?" "Wouldn't miss it," she promised. As Margot walked toward the elevator, Leo called after her. "Hey, Robbie." She turned back. "Yeah? Next time we go shopping, let's try online. Much less drama." Margot laughed, the sound carrying across the rooftop garden. "Where's the fun in that, DiCaprio?" 3 months later, Leo and Margot found themselves back in Milan for the film festival, as planned. Their schedule included a visit to Celestia Milano to observe the progress of the initiatives they had helped establish. The store looked largely the same from the outside, but as they entered, dressed casually once again, though perhaps not quite as relaxed as on their previous visit, they noticed subtle changes. The staff was more diverse, for one thing, and there was a small but elegant sign near the entrance stating the boutique's commitment to welcoming all clients regardless of appearance. Signor Bianchi greeted them personally, ushering them to a conference room where presentations had been prepared showing the impact of their initiatives. The sensitivity training had been implemented across all Celestia locations worldwide, and the scholarship program had already selected its first 5 recipients, talented young people from underprivileged backgrounds who would receive fully funded education in fashion design and business. "And what about Alberto?" Leo asked when the formal presentations had concluded. Bianchi smiled. "He has been our greatest success story. After completing the training, he requested a transfer to our community outreach department. He now coordinates our mentorship program for at-risk youth interested in fashion careers." "Would you like to see?" a familiar voice asked from the doorway. Alberto stood there, dressed in a smart casual outfit with the Celestia logo, but now on a different type of name tag that read, Community Liaison. "We would love to," Margot said warmly. Alberto led them to what had previously been a storage area at the back of the building, now transformed into a bright, welcoming space with workstations, design materials, and examples of leatherwork and fabric creations. "We meet 3 times a week," Alberto explained, showing them around with evident pride. "Young people from all over Milan come here to learn, create, and imagine futures they might never have considered possible before." Photos on the wall showed Alberto with groups of teenagers, all engaged in various aspects of fashion design and retail. In one corner, a glass case displayed some of their creations, simple but promising pieces that showcased raw talent and creativity. "This is incredible," Leo said, genuinely impressed by the transformation. "How has it been for you, making this change?" Alberto considered the question carefully. "At first, it was difficult. I had to confront many prejudices I didn't even realize I held. But now? This is the most rewarding work I have ever done." "And the store?" Margot asked. "Has the more inclusive approach affected business?" Signor Bianchi, who had followed them into the room, answered this one. "Our sales have increased by 12%. It turns out that making people feel welcome encourages them to spend money." He said this with a touch of self-deprecating humor. Who would have thought? As they were preparing to leave, Alberto handed them each a small gift bag. "The students made these," he explained, "when they heard you were visiting." Inside each bag was a simple cardholders crafted from soft leather, with their initials subtly embossed in the corner, much like the journal Margot had purchased for her sister from Signor Tosetti's shop. "Please tell them these are beautiful," Margot said, genuinely touched by the gesture. Outside, as they walked away from the boutique, Leo commented, "You know, when we were first rudely asked to leave, I never imagined this would be the outcome." Margot slipped her arm through his as they strolled along the elegant street. "Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes." "Indeed," Leo agreed. "And sometimes being misjudged is the beginning of being truly seen." A young couple approached them, clearly recognizing the celebrities but hesitating to interrupt. The woman finally gathered her courage and spoke. "Excuse me," she said in accented English. "I just wanted to thank you for what you did with Celestia Milano. My brother is one of the scholarship recipients. It has changed his life. Leo and Margot chatted with the couple for a few minutes, learning about the brother's passion for sustainable fashion design and how the opportunity had given him hope for a future he never thought possible. As they continued their walk afterward, Leo reflected, "You know what the best part of this whole situation is?" "What's that?" Margot asked. "It's not about us anymore," Leo said, gesturing back toward the boutique. "It's taken on a life of its own. The scholarship program, the training, Alberto's transformation, it's all happening now whether we're involved or not." "The best kind of change," Margot agreed. "Self-sustaining." They walked in companionable silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Leo spoke again. "I've been thinking about our film projects. What if we incorporated some of these themes into the next one? Not literally this story, but the ideas behind it, about judgment, second chances, transformation." "I like it," Margot said enthusiastically. "Art reflecting life reflecting art." "Exactly," Leo nodded. "After all, isn't that what we're supposed to do as actors? Turn real human experiences into stories that help people see the world differently?" They had reached a small cafe, and Leo gestured toward it questioningly. Margot nodded, and they found a table outside, ordering the espresso that Leo had promised would ruin her for all other coffee. As they sipped their drinks, watching the fashionable Milanese world go by, Margot raised her tiny cup in a toast. "To being misjudged," she said with a smile. Leo clinked his cup against hers. "And to what happens after." Around them, Milan continued its elegant bustle, unaware that the small incident that had occurred months ago in one of its luxury boutiques had set in motion changes that would ripple outward in ways no one could have predicted, all because two famous actors had dressed down for a day of shopping and encountered one security guard with something to prove. But perhaps that was the beauty of it all, how the smallest interactions could sometimes lead to the most meaningful transformations. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.